Hi everyone, welcome to our second webinar of Advanced B2B Scaling Your SaaS Business with Experiments. Well, let's wait for 1-2 minutes so that everyone can join. Hi again. We are just waiting for attendees to join who signed up. So we will give them 1-2 more minutes and then we will start our webinar. Yeah, hi to new ones who joined. We are just waiting for people to join and we will start our webinar very shortly. Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone one more time and welcome to our webinar again. It is about scaling your SaaS business with experiments. We will speak about experiments and how important it is for SaaS growth marketing and how it is done on a high level. And also we will touch the experimenting mindset. Today, our agenda will include a short introduction and some housekeeping. Then we will speak about the meaning of experimentation in SaaS growth marketing and how to get started with it. And after, we will go through different experimenting examples in the pilot funnel. As you all know, the pilot funnel, I will not mention it. And finally, we will take a closer look at some concrete example cases. Let's get started with some short introduction. So I'm Ali Kisaoglu and I'm working at Advanced B2B as a growth marketing strategist. And I'm also leading our international team at the company. I have been in marketing for about a decade and worked with many organizations from startups to growth companies and also big corporations. I let my colleague Mikko introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Mikko Latvakoivisto, and I'm also a growth marketing strategist at Advanced B2B. And I also develop our internal growth marketing processes. And I also have like 8 years of experience in B2B marketing, and I've mostly worked with B2B SaaS and B2B technology companies.
Great, thanks, Mikko. So if we look at our housekeeping a little bit, I want to mention some practicalities here. We are recording this webinar and we will share it with you so that you will be able to watch the recording afterwards. And you can send your questions in the chat during the webinar and we will do our best to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. Enjoy. So experimentation, as we all know, it's a key part of the growth marketing framework. Growth marketing is a methodological, data-driven way to optimize specific areas of your business through experimentation. And experimentation is very important in growth framework. Achieving a sustainable growth requires an understanding of all stages of the customer journey, measuring, leveraging, and making sure you get the right data and making sure informed decisions for your next moves is very important. The efforts are focused on 6 pilot metric areas: awareness, acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and referral, as we all know. Will you, Mikko, tell us what experimentation is and why we do experiments in growth marketing?
Yeah, sure. So what is experimentation actually? Well, we define it this way, that it's a way to learn about your customers, understand them better. So basically you are testing different things, and then you learn what works for your potential customers or your current customers. What makes them click an ad or fill a form or use your product, and you can test different things. But in the end, it's about the customer understanding. So, but in practice, the experimentation means that you're conducting different tests along the like growth funnel and learn with the help of data. So, of course, the ultimate goal is to improve the results.
Thanks, Mikko.
And then I can give a concrete example about like running advertising campaigns in this experimentation. Oh, sorry, you went ahead. Yeah, sure. Go ahead first. Tell about this SaaS experimentation, and then I'll give this example.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had an extra click there, as it happens always when you try to perfect things, you know. So experimentation in SaaS and how it is related to SaaS marketing. Well, having a predictable revenue growth is very important for every single SaaS company. Because of this, data is a priority. Measuring important actions and user behavior, then collecting, analyzing the right data is essential. SaaS companies have a clear funnel, as we all know. This gives them the possibility to fully measure and analyze. It's easier for them to look at the entire conversion funnel and see optimization areas. They can find many opportunities to optimize. They have the possibility to utilize user, sales, and product data to their advantage. Whereas with offline or sales-led companies, the data flow might be broken or very slow. One of the priorities in SaaS is also to avoid churn, as we all know. Churn is the killer. Retention is super important for SaaS subscription companies. Testing and improving the funnel metrics to maximize the user value is crucial. So it's very important. Mikko, will you tell us how it is in practice?
Yes, so here's one concrete example of running advertising. So in a traditional way, and then using this experiment-driven approach. So in this like more traditional way, you might have like singular campaign and you want to run it for this specific target audience in one channel or with some content that you picked. And there's nothing wrong with this approach. Like those choices are like probably make a lot of sense, but how it differs from this experiment-driven approach is that you also accept that there's many different things that could work, not just the thing that you have top of mind, like this channel or content. So you rather want to learn the best way to get, for example, get leads or trials from a specific target audience. You're set out to learn about those things, and then you can actually list many things that you can test. So you can test many different channels, many different content pieces, many different copies, images, whatever. And you can, over a period of time, test these things and then look into the data constantly and see what works and what doesn't. And in the end, you should have this better way to reach this target audience over and over again. You might learn that actually some other channel works really well, or this specific copy or specific words in the copies might work really well. So it's all about learning, and it's also this long-term approach that you're using, and you really want to learn. That's the most important thing. And what do you think, Ali, about experimentation? What is the main reason that companies aren't already doing things this way, this experimentation way?
Yeah. To answer your question, I can say there are for sure more than one reason for this. As we know, everyone talks about growth marketing nowadays, and pretty much every single marketer became a growth marketer overnight. However, we know that growth marketing requires a certain mindset. In this mindset, there is no right and no wrong, or no success or no failure. There is only valuable learnings and how to apply them into your next move in a systematic way. Every organization that wants to succeed in growth marketing must adapt to this. The ways of working also need to change in an organization that wants to adopt experimenting. Growth marketing cannot be done using traditional marketing practices. It requires a clear and sharp focus. It needs to be agile, and there needs to be a feedback loop in every activity. So we all know that every organization expects results as soon as possible, and this is quite natural. But we all need to understand that it takes time to learn our customers and their behavior through experiments. Like, think of a baby. As time passes, she tries many things, from eating sand to licking a cold metal to trying many other things until she finds the best ways for herself. And I think experimenting is pretty much the same. So the more we learn about our users, their behavior, actions, and the way they think through experiments, the better we can communicate and fulfill their needs, and the easier we can convince them to use our product and pay for it. So I think experimenting is the gold in marketing. So how do we get started with experimentation? Well, there are a few things to pay attention when it comes to it. So the first one, as we just said, have an open mindset. There is no success or failure. It's all about learning. The most important thing is the mindset. You need to have a culture in your company that accepts failure, takes it as a way of learning. Because when fear of failure takes over, avoiding poor results becomes more important than success for many people. And this leads organizations to traditional marketing and generic growth hacks, risk-free choices, or meaningless takeaways. When it comes to experimenting, you really need to take it as learning. Learning and applying the learnings to the next campaign in a systematic way must be the priority number one for every single organization that does growth marketing. Then we start with a goal. Growth marketing needs a clear goal. It needs to be specific. Every organization that's aiming for growth must be using a North Star metric as a focus for its growth. This metric needs to reflect the amount of value your organization actually brings to your customers. The main idea behind this is that the more value your customers receive from your company, the more growth your company should naturally generate, right? Because when you bring more value to your customers, they will stick to your product for a longer time, buy more from you, and refer more connections to your company. And Mikko, how do we analyze all our data?
Yeah, so analyze your data. It sounds like a big thing, but it helps if you again approach it from the customer point of view. So understand how the user comes to your business and how they start using your product and how they keep using it as well. And you can then set specific KPIs for different sections of the funnel and see how you're doing currently in those different parts of the funnel. So even if you haven't called your marketing actions or tactics as experiments before, there must have been goals there and some actions there that you've taken, and you've wanted some clear end result. So you can just assess how you're doing currently. And Ali can tell a bit more about the funnel approach and then how to continue to choosing a focus area.
Yeah, thanks. So choosing a focus area is very important in growth marketing and experimenting. Mapping out the conversion funnel to see where the biggest problems are and where to focus. It's important that we map out our entire funnel. We decide a focus area. We go through every single action, every data you receive from the customer interaction. And then we identify where the biggest problems and where we should focus. So once you figure out the problem area where you need to make improvements, you need to identify that specific metric to focus on. And this is the metric which we want to influence. This metric could be, for example, your newsletter signups, your email open rates, your landing page conversions, top of the funnel leads, demos scheduled, or number of free trials, or free to paid conversions. Another option is to use the pilot metrics to select a specific part of your funnel. For example, if you want to do your experimenting on, let's say, increasing brand awareness, you could focus on acquisition, activation, and retention, and also referral part of your funnel. And here acquisition is the part where all awareness as a new person discovers your product or brand. Then at the activation, you got her attention, and an acquired customer activates basically by taking an action on the site or on the product. Then we need to retain it, and as we continue nurturing our users, the engagement increases and they return again to engage with our website, or they start considering our product, and then referral comes, so that our customers experienced something worth sharing with their connection, and they refer our company to their connections. And this way we know that our brand awareness goes up, and we can measure this. And there's brainstorming part, which is also very important. Mikko, what do you say about brainstorming?
Yeah, brainstorming is, of course, really important to come up with different ideas. And now is a good time to do that once you've figured out the focus area and the goal that you want to influence. Because earlier, if you wanted to throw ideas, you didn't have any criteria like what to focus on. So now is a great time to come up with ideas with your team, and based on your observations and what you can think about how to, for example, activate your customers better, throw different ideas. And at this point, it's really good to just let the ideas flow in, and then in the next phase you can sort out what to focus on first. So Ali, can you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, so that we call prioritization, and we use a scoring methodology to prioritize. So it can be ice-based or pie-based or whatever, as long as you prioritize, it doesn't really matter. It is just a crucial step in your growth marketing and experimentation. And here's an example prioritization sheet that I use for experimenting. And in this sheet, I have different columns. So every sprint we collect observations. Then based on our observations, we form our hypothesis and define our experiments. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important to focus. So we decide on what funnel stage we will target and define the channels we will use, and also decide the KPIs we want to measure and improve. So in this, we also want a status column that we can follow the process. The prioritization sheet also includes data column for before and after, so that we can compare, what is the situation before and after our experimentation. Then comes the scoring part to prioritize. This is like very important part. I usually use the pie when I prioritize. It basically stands for potential, importance, and ease. The point here is to prioritize, so it doesn't really matter, what you are using. The goal with this is to evaluate each experiment based on different criteria, and then decide which one to go with first. As a growth marketing agency, both our internal team and our impact owner scores these, and then we can see like what is important and where to start. Once we prioritize, then comes to launch. There are different approaches, of course, how long an experiment should run. So for us, basically, there is no single answer to this, as it's not a black and white case. Sometimes we need to think about the statistical significance to make a judgment, but sometimes it's more about gut feeling. So if you think you have enough data and see that there is a clear difference between your variables, it's okay to move on with your learnings and apply them to your next campaign. And next, I will let Mick go to just wrap it up, and you can see how we start and end, and what kind of cycle it is actually when doing experimenting.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. So yeah, here's all 7 parts of this whole experimentation process, and the first 3 are like setting up your experimentation. So you start with the goal, analyze the data, choose a focus area, and after that you start running this loop. So you constantly brainstorm, prioritize, launch, and then do this again and again, and you learn more about your customers and what works and what doesn't. But then you can also, once you've, for example, noticed that you've made improvements for example, this activation part of the funnel, you can start this again, like starting with another goal and focusing on some other part of the growth funnel, for example, awareness stage or retention stage, and you can then start experimenting on that, so you don't stay in one phase forever, but you can like take one piece of the funnel and focus on that, and then switch your focus to something else once you've like figured out what works really well in a particular stage. And then next we have some concrete examples of experiments that we've done at our own work recently, and it just shows what you can do in practice with experimentation, what kind of things. So Ali, can you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah. So if we look at the practicalities regarding experimentation, for example, different experiments can be run at for different stages of the funnel. Depends on where you see the improvement areas or where you see the problems. So if we take the advertising related experiments, that would usually focus on awareness, acquisition, and activation part of the funnel, and these could be like testing messaging variations, testing your audiences or market, testing channels, or comparing content. Then we have like landing page related experiments. These would more focus on the acquisition part of the funnel in most cases. Then if we think of nurturing, it would focus on the lower parts of the funnel. So those would be like activation, retention, and revenue. And for example, experiment ideas for these would be testing activation focused emails, or testing your lead nurturing content, or if you have some nurturing workflow that runs on the background, then you could test different email copies. Another example would be, for example, user onboarding, and this would focus on the activation and retention part of the funnel. And the test could be welcome campaign emails and content, then product walkthrough content or similar. Then of course there is SEO, which we continuously need to test. So different copy types on the website, different visuals, different layout, and so on. We can test a lot of things. As examples here, we have mostly focusing on advertising and landing page related experiments. We picked these experiments, which we will speak about soon, because it's first a good way to start and it's easy to launch. Then the learnings come quick because you can generate content using paid advertising, and then you will get enough data to compare your variations. Yeah. I will let Mikko to tell how he tested well-performed organic content on different paid channels and for different audiences. Mikko.
Yes, thanks, Ali. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, you can also write down those to the chat. We'll go through them in the end in the Q&A section. So if you want to ask something about experimentation and how to do it, you can do that in the chat. But yeah, to my example about experimentation, we had this like organic piece of content with our customer that was already performing well. So their CEO had shared this piece of content in social media, in LinkedIn, and it had already worked really well in terms of lead generation. And we thought that we could boost it by give it some like attention in paid channels, and wanted to test it, how well would it perform. And we also tested then different channels and audiences in this like 2 months long like experimentation. Yeah, so we thought that probably this piece of content will be interesting to the target audiences, and our KPI was number of leads, and not just any leads, but high quality leads that fit the ICP. And we tested this content, so if it will convert leads and how much, and then different channels and audiences. And it was a quite like small test, so budget was 1,200 euros. And what we did first was we promoted it to the HR audience in LinkedIn. And already then we saw that, yes, this converts really well. So we got 24 leads and cost per lead was 25 euros, which is really good for LinkedIn. And then the next step, we thought that maybe we can boost it even more if we also promote it to founders, which was another target audience for this business. And that also proved to be a good decision. So we got more leads, cost per lead was similar as before. And then the final test was Twitter, where we targeted HR interests. And here it went really well because we got 73 conversions with 300 euros, which then resulted in 4 euros cost per lead. And what was also great about this piece of content was that after the people had converted, downloaded this piece of content, they were so interested that many of the people also left a demo request right after downloading this piece of content. So this was a really really good test, and also goes to show that if you find something that works quite well somewhere, it just makes sense to test it elsewhere again and again, so that you can get everything out of that piece of content, and your audience basically will say when they're had enough of the content, when the like metrics start to go down. So if you find something that works, just stay with it as long as it works. And then Ali can tell more about his interesting experiments with his customers.
Yeah, thanks, Mikko. So this experiment was designed for one of our ICP customers, and we wanted to see what message resonates with best with which audience. So we just started working with them, conducted our customer research, but still wanted to validate our findings. We designed an experiment to find out the type of message that resonates best with their audience in different markets. And we created 2 message variations based on 2 cases after the customer research, and launched paid campaigns both on Google and LinkedIn. We then let them run for about 1.5 months, and we spent, I think, around 5,000 euros for $5,000 for the experiments. At the end, the conclusion was quite easy, just looking at the results, that the message variation we created based on the case 1 clearly won for all markets. And the following experiment we designed after this was basically designed by the learnings used and launched later. And also, as a bonus, we generated 31 signups, 20 new free trials, and 4 MQS for our customers. Yeah. Please also send, I just want to remind again that, send your questions in the chat if you have any, and we will try to answer them all at the end of the webinar. Yeah. Then another experiment we launched for another customer. In this experiment, we simply wanted to improve the performance of a landing page. This was like one of the landing pages we built for our customers. This page didn't perform as we expected, so we started thinking of different hypotheses for making improvements. We first started boosting the page traffic using paid channels to see if it will make any difference, but this didn't help much. And the sign-up conversion rate was still low. Then we started looking into the data and noticed that even after boosting the traffic, people who visited the page didn't stay long on it and didn't submit the form still, obviously. We then placed the sign-up form right under the fold. Earlier, it was placed lower on the page. And we wanted to test, if this form replacement would make any difference for the signups on the page. We ran this experiment for about 2.5 months, and this time also included boosting the traffic and waiting. So it wasn't all only about form replacement. Well, at the end of the experiment, basically the number of conversions increased month over month, and at the end of 2.5 months or 3 months, we generated 80+ conversions in total. The conversion rate, which was our KPI, also increased from 5% to almost 14%, which was a very good improvement. Yeah. So this was all what we wanted to share, and we can take a look at the questions you sent over now. Mikko, maybe you want to take over from here.
Yes, so there was a really good question in the chat from Petra, and he said that this is a very general and kind of it depends question, but I think really good question. So he asked, how would you start implementing growth marketing activities into a startup that has never done any online marketing, but has got customers through its personal network? And I can give this some thought first, and then you can also say, Ali, what you think. So I think, yeah, definitely it depends question, because every business and all the customers are different. So what we would do first would be customer research to understand how the customers like behave and where they hang out and what kind of things they're interested in and things like that. And after that, you can draw conclusions on what kind of tactics you could start doing. But like I can give a couple of like examples off the top of my head also, like that might work for some businesses. Yeah, like this. For example, if you're in the beginning with growth marketing or digital marketing, it's one way is to approach it from the point of view of sales. So if your personal network is already delivering customers really well, how can you apply that to your marketing? You can think about that. For example, like social media channels like LinkedIn, for example, that's based around the personal networks is often a good place to start. And how you approach it from experimentation point of view. For example, if you do LinkedIn posting, you can approach it from the like experimentation point of view. So you constantly measure what kind of results you get from each of your posts, how many views you get, how many likes and comments. And that way, when you analyze what works and what doesn't, you can improve your own results. So that's one approach. And overall, like organic social media often works well in this stage, or makes sense to start building your own audience in social media. And yeah, altogether, think about your sales and how you can support sales with your own marketing efforts. That's also one point. Ali, do you want to also say about something about this or
yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think for starting online marketing and growth marketing activities for a startup that had gone, through its sales through personal network, I see a good opportunity there as the customers are all known to the company, and I think every first step, regardless of what size company, should take is the customer research. I would start with speaking with those users and try to get all the insights I can get. Of course, we know how they ended up there because it's like personal network, but we don't know what benefits they have from using that service, or what made them maybe change their existing tool and such. There are many insights that we can get from those people, even if they are in on network. So the next step I would go with is basically testing your messaging and positioning. You should have a solid positioning and work on it, and experimentation basically comes into picture there. Like you can, as Mikko mentioned, you can do it very easily using paid channels and paid campaigns, shooting different messages out and checking which one works, then targeting different audiences with certain messages, then see where you get the most reaction. Or if you are targeting particular markets, then you can test the markets and so on. And yes, of course, there are a lot of things to say for this case, as it's it depends question, but I hope this gives you answers you are looking for. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much. Please send if you have more questions. We don't have more questions right now in the chat. We can wait a little while if you have any more questions, and then wrap it up.
And Peter said, thanks for your answer. So great if we can help you.
Yeah. Great. If there are no more questions, well, first, thank you for the question, Petri. It was a really nice one, and I hope like you got something out of my answer and Mikko's answer. I also want to thank everyone who joined our webinar, Scaling Your SaaS Business with Experiments today. I hope that our discussion will add some value into your marketing, and you will consider experimenting in your growth marketing in your company. And if you want to spar any ideas or learn more about experimenting in growth marketing, please feel free to contact Mikko or me. You can contact us both on LinkedIn or via email. You can see our email addresses on the slide. I also want to point out that we are launching more webinars in the coming weeks. So to get notified, please head to advancedb2b.com and sign up for our newsletter to get notified about those new webinars. Another thing I want to mention is the Growth Hub podcast, which you can find on our website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. We have like very interesting discussions with highly skilled marketeers from amazing, SaaS and subscription companies all around the world. So you can enjoy the talks and discussions there as well. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.